You are not here to force the wind. You are not here to bend the rivers with your hands. Just as the rose blooms without strain, and the moon glides across the heavens in silent confidence, so too are you meant to allow your life to unfold, not through effort, but through alignment. The world has taught you to push. It has taught you to labor, to chase, to struggle. You have been told that only through the sweat of the brow will anything of value be born. And so you move through your days with clenched fists and tight hearts, demanding outcomes, praying for change, all while ignoring the simple truth. What is truly yours will come to you not by force, but by assumption. The outer world is but a shadow cast by the inner man. Everything you see, all that you experience, is a reflection not of your work or your willpower, but of your inner state of being. You do not make the mirror smile by tugging at it. You smile, and the image smiles back. This is the law, this is the truth. To allow is not to be passive. It is not to sit idle and wait. To allow is to enter into the spirit of the thing desired, to wear it inwardly, to feel it deeply, and to let it become natural within you. And once it becomes natural, it must become visible. You have been told that your future lies ahead of you, but the future you long for is not ahead, it is within. Time does not bring fulfillment, consciousness does. Your inner assumptions, believed and persisted in, are the womb from which all things are born. You are not walking toward your future, you are birthing it from within. When a desire arises within you, it is not random. It is not a distant prize dangled by a cruel universe. It is a seed planted by the infinite, and your only task is to water it with feeling and faith. The moment you try to make it happen, you step out of harmony. You begin to doubt. You interfere. You block the natural flow. Consider the lilies of the field. They toil not, neither do they spin, and yet even Solomon in all his glory was not arrayed like one of these. That is not just poetry, it is instruction, it is revelation. The lily does not achieve its beauty, it allows it. So too must you learn to allow. Allowing begins in imagination. It begins when you close your eyes to the facts of the world and open your mind to the feeling of the wish fulfilled. You do not imagine to escape reality, you imagine to create it. When you assume a state and feel it real, you are aligning with a higher order. You are entering the creative act, which is effortless in its power. Let go of the need to manipulate the world. Let go of the compulsion to control the pieces on the board. The world is not your master, it is your servant. It responds to you. But it responds not to your words or your actions alone. It responds to your inner knowing. When you know something to be true in the silence of your heart, the entire universe begins to organize itself around that truth. What you fight, you feed. What you resist, you empower. Every time you try to push reality into place, you affirm its absence. You say to the world, "It is not yet mine," and the world echoes back, "It is not yet yours." But when you say, quietly and confidently within yourself, "It is done," there is a sacred stillness at the heart of all creation, and in that stillness, all things are complete. To allow is to rest in that stillness, to know that all you seek is already yours, not will be, not someday, but now. The only reason you do not see it is because your senses are trained upon the visible, and the visible is always the past. What you call now is merely the evidence of what you once believed. To change your life, you must change what you accept as true before it appears. You are always creating, always allowing something. The question is, what are you allowing? Are you allowing fear, doubt, delay, or are you allowing peace, joy, fulfillment? The door is always open, and your assumptions are always stepping through. The world moves not by the hand, but by the word. And the word is not what is spoken aloud, it is the word felt in the secret places of the heart. When your feeling matches the thing desired, you have spoken the creative word, and the universe listens. Stop asking when, stop asking how. These are the questions of doubt. These are the cries of one who believes in separation. But you are not separate from what you seek. You are one with it. And when you assume that unity, the barriers fall away. You may look around you and see contradiction. You may see evidence of lack, delay, limitation, but those are echoes of an old state, a former belief. Do not dwell in them. Dwell in the end. Dwell in the feeling of completion. For you do not make the seed grow, you trust that it will. Trust is the atmosphere of manifestation. Trust is not hope. Trust is knowing, and knowing is the highest form of allowing. So still the mind, return to the silence, assume the state, and allow it to be. Let the desire fulfill itself through you. That is the work, the only real work, and it is not struggle but surrender, for in the surrender all power is revealed. All things seen were once unseen. All things visible were first born of the invisible. The house you live in was once an idea. The clothes upon your back, the ground beneath your feet, the very name you answer to. All of these once existed only in the unseen realm of imagination, long before your senses beheld them. You live in a world of effects, but you are governed by causes. And the cause is always belief. Belief is the unseen root from which all things grow. It is not a product of evidence. It is the cause of evidence. The world tells you to believe after you see. But the great secret is that you must believe before. You must live in the conviction of that which your senses have not yet confirmed. You must feel the reality of the thing desired, even as the outer world denies it. You are not a servant of facts. You are their creator. Facts change, but the eternal truth is this. The world is a mirror, reflecting not what is, but what is assumed to be true within the mind of man. You see with the eyes of belief, not with the eyes of flesh. What you accept as true in your imagination, you will meet in the flesh. For the imagination is the only doorway through which reality enters. To believe before you see is not delusion, it is creation. It is the essence of faith. And faith is not hope. Hope is a wish suspended in doubt. Faith is possession. It says, though my senses deny it, I know it is so. That knowing, held in stillness and persisted in, compels the world to comply. For your world is your consciousness objectified. You may believe yourself to be waiting for life to give you what you desire, but life is waiting for you to assume it. Every desire is a prophecy. If it has stirred in you, it is yours to claim. But it must be claimed in spirit before it can be seen in form. The seed must be accepted before the harvest can be gathered. The inner act always precedes the outer confirmation. Many look around and say, I will believe when I see it. But the Lord does not work that way. The one who says, I am wealthy while living in poverty, if he persists in that assumption, will find the world reshaping itself to match that inner state. And the one who waits for evidence before assuming the state of wealth will wait without end. You must learn to deny appearances. You must learn to close your eyes to the evidence of the senses and open them inward to the truth you have chosen. The world cannot give you what you have not first accepted within. There is no power outside of your assumption. When you believe a thing to be true, truly believe it, without wavering, it hardens into fact. This is the foundation of all creation. The seen comes from the unseen. The seen is dead, fixed, final. The unseen is alive, fluid, creative, limitless, You must dwell in the unseen, in the invisible conviction that what you desire already is, and allow that unseen conviction to cast the shadow of your new world. Dearest, this is why imagination must be disciplined. If you let it wander, it will reflect confusion. But when it is directed and made obedient to your will, it becomes the creative tool through which all things are made. To believe before you see is to create in imagination. You need not know how it will come to pass. The how belongs to the wisdom of the unseen, the bridge of incidents, the chain of events, the unfolding circumstances. All of these will be drawn into your world, not by planning, but by belief. You must simply walk in the feeling that it is already so. Feel it real, and the path will be made straight. If a man would change his life, he must first change what he believes to be true of himself. For as long as he sees himself as limited, as broken, as lacking, his world will show him those beliefs made manifest. But when he assumes the identity of the one who already is what he wishes to become, and walks in that state as though it were natural, the world must yield. You are not defined by your past. You are not chained to your present. You are free, here and now, to assume the feeling of any state you desire, and the world will mirror it, but only when you believe it first. The change does not come from the outside in, it moves from the inside out. There is no use in changing the scenery without changing the script. The actor must first believe in the role, and then the stage will be set accordingly. You do not become something by waiting, you become it by being it, in feeling, in thought, in imagination. To believe before you see is to plant the seed in consciousness. And just as the seed does not sprout the moment it touches soil, your assumption may not instantly become visible. But if you hold it, if you feed it with faith, if you protect it from doubt, it must grow. It must become your experience. The world is impartial. It does not care what you believe. It simply reflects it. Whether you believe in failure or in victory, in sickness or in health, in loneliness or in love, the universe echoes back your conviction. And conviction is not words. It is feeling. It is inner knowing. The moment you truly believe that what you desire is already yours, you stop asking, you stop seeking. You begin to rest in the confidence that it is done. And that rest is the sign of fulfillment. That stillness is the voice of the creative power within you. You are not waiting on life. Life is waiting on your belief. Choose wisely what you accept as true. Guard the gates of your imagination. And above all, remember, you must believe it before you see it, for seeing always follows being. Imagination is not a fleeting pastime of idle minds. It is not a childish distraction or a mental game. Imagination is the womb of creation, the workshop of the unseen, the portal through which all things are born into form. Every mountain you see, every machine, every work of art, every structure of man, these first lived as images in the unseen realm of imagination before they stood in the world of matter. But imagination alone is not enough. There is a deeper current that must move through it, and that current is feeling. For it is not what you merely see in your mind that creates. It is what you feel to be real. The union of imagination and emotion is the secret act of creation, the true conception. That which you imagine with deep, sustained feeling will take shape and move into the visible world. This is the eternal law. The world is not built by action alone. Action is the last step in a process that begins within. Thought and feeling, fused in imagination, create patterns that must be expressed. You do not beg life for change. You do not plead with the outer world to shift in your favor. You go within and imagine the world as you desire it to be, and you feel it as though it were already so. In that moment, you are planting the seed of reality. This is not pretending, this is assuming. You must make the imagined scene as vivid, as rich, as emotionally convincing as any moment in waking life. The world you carry within you must become more alive than the one your senses report to you. That inner world, clothed in feeling, is what the outer world will eventually mirror. When you imagine without feeling, you are a painter with no color, a composer with no sound. The image remains lifeless, a shell without soul. But when you invest your inner vision with the emotion of fulfillment, when you feel the joy of answered prayer, the gratitude of already having received, you bring your imagination to life. It becomes animate. It becomes cause. There is no outer condition that can resist the power of inner conviction. What you feel inwardly as real will override facts, appearances, and limitations. You may say, "But I do not see it yet." That is the voice of the senses, and it is always late. The senses follow belief. They do not lead it. You are always imagining something and you are always feeling something. Most do so unconsciously. They rehearse fears, play out scenes of lack, carry conversations of worry in their minds, and then wonder why the world continues to reflect turmoil. But these too are imaginations, only misused, and they bear fruit just the same. You must become deliberate in your inner world. You must take the reins of your imagination and direct it toward that which you desire to experience. Picture yourself as already the person you wish to be. See it clearly. More importantly, feel it clearly. Feel the emotions you would feel if it were already so. Walk in the state, not as though it is coming, but as though it is here. Feeling is the only path into the depths of the subconscious, and the subconscious is what shapes reality. You cannot enter it with words alone. You cannot command it with logic. It responds only to the emotional quality of your inner assumptions. That which is impressed upon the subconscious through feeling must be expressed in your world. Suppose you desire love. Do not simply imagine a partner or a conversation. Enter the state of being loved. Feel the warmth, the joy, the shared life. Suppose you desire abundance. Do not merely visualize wealth. Feel the security, the freedom, the ease that such abundance would bring. That is the act of creation. There is no power in repetition unless it is charged with emotion. You may speak affirmations all day, but unless they move you inwardly, they are but empty words. But one single moment of vivid, emotional inner experience can outweigh years of effort. You are not trying to convince the world. You are convincing yourself. When you do, the world must conform. This is not self-deception. This is self-definition. You are defining yourself by the state you choose to dwell in, and the state you dwell in is made real through feeling. The senses will catch up. They are shadows of past beliefs. But your inner world, when sustained in feeling, is always creating the next chapter. You cannot serve two masters. You cannot imagine joy and feel doubt. You must choose. You must train the inner eye to see only what you wish to see, and the heart to feel only what you wish to feel. And you must do so even when nothing around you supports it. For this is true faith, the evidence of things not seen, the substance of things hoped for. Every great change in your life will begin as a shift in feeling. Not in thought alone, but in the emotional tone of your being. You may speak of goals, make plans, take actions, but if your inner state is unchanged, the result will not differ. You must feel your way into the new version of yourself. You must carry the mood of your desired reality before it appears. That mood is the magnet. That feeling is the substance. That inner conviction is the true cause. Imagination, charged with feeling, becomes the mold into which life flows. What you feel inwardly consistently will outpicture itself without fail. You may not know the day or the hour, but if you persist, it must come to pass. It is law. The inner world, when impressed with feeling, becomes the outer world in form. Man walks through the world believing himself a victim of circumstance. He wakes each day and looks outward, searching the landscape of events and conditions for signs of his fate. He bows to the external world as if it were the master and he the servant. But this is the grand illusion, the sleep of the soul. For the truth is not that you are subject to life, but that life is subject to you. The outer world has no life of its own. It is not independent. It is not sovereign. It is clay, and you are the potter. It is canvas, and you are the painter. It is a mirror, and you are the face it reflects. Whatever you see in your world, whether beauty or sorrow, abundance or lack, has no origin outside of your own consciousness. You are not a reactor, but a creator. When you feel helpless, it is because you have forgotten your true position. When you feel stuck, it is because you have surrendered your authority to appearances. You believe the world tells you who you are, and so you listen and you obey. But the world is only echoing your inner state. It is not first cause, it is response. There is no power outside of awareness. The whole of life bends itself to the assumptions you accept as true. The only reason you seem to be bound by conditions is because you continue to identify with a version of yourself that believes in limitation. You are not bound by your past. You are not imprisoned by your environment. You are only bound by your concept of self. All transformation begins there. With a shift in identity, you must awaken to the truth that your experience of life is not dictated by what happens to you, but by who you believe yourself to be. The moment you change your inner self-conception, the outer world begins to reflect that new truth. There is no delay, except the delay caused by unbelief. You are always expressing yourself through the world around you. Every person, every event, every circumstance is a projection of your inner assumptions. You may say, "I did not choose this," but the law is not broken because it works through unconscious belief, just as surely as through conscious acceptance. The world is a faithful servant. It takes your inner word and makes it flesh. To become master of your reality, you must reclaim your inner throne. Stop looking to outer facts for permission to believe. Stop waiting for evidence before accepting the truth of your desire. The outer follows the inner, always. When you assume a new state of being and persist in it, the world must reorganize itself to match your conviction. It does not matter what others think or do. Their actions too are drawn into your experience by the magnet of your inner state. They are instruments, playing the music that you conduct from within. If they appear as obstacles, look not to them but to your own consciousness and correct the pattern at its source. All is self. To say that life is subject to you is not arrogance. It is divine responsibility. You are not here to bow to fate. You are here to express it. And fate is not written in the stars. It is written in your assumptions. The stars themselves are moved by consciousness. The very order of nature is governed by the law of belief. You do not beg the universe to favor you. You do not plead for miracles. You embody the truth of what you desire, and the world moves accordingly. When you identify with abundance, abundance must appear. When you assume health, health must manifest. When you dwell in love, love must surround you. This is not fantasy, this is law. The world does not act upon you, you act upon it through the silent movements of thought, feeling, and imagination. Most people live as though they are at the mercy of chance, hoping that tomorrow will bring something new while carrying yesterday's identity. But the new can only come when you become new. The outer shifts when you do. Not a second before. You must stop reacting. Reaction is submission to the visible. Creation is insistence on the invisible. When you see lack, do not react. Create abundance in imagination. When you face rejection, do not fold inward. Assume you are loved. When the door closes, do not curse it. Imagine the greater door opening. In this, you stop being the victim of life and become its author. The law is impartial. It does not care whether your assumption is noble or ignoble. It only knows to express what you deeply believe to be true. So what are you believing? What are you allowing to define you? What identity are you accepting without question? For that identity will write the script your world must follow. If you see yourself as small, life will shrink around you. If you see yourself as capable, opportunities will appear. If you believe yourself to be invisible, the world will walk past you. But if you carry yourself as one who matters, one who is worthy, one who is already what they seek to become, then the world will respond with reflection after reflection of that truth. You are not here to conform to the world. You are here to transform it. But transformation begins not with speeches, not with action, not with struggle, but with assumption. The moment you assume a higher truth and feel it as your natural state, the outer must obey. Circumstances are never the master. They are always the servant. They serve the story you are telling yourself, the identity you are living out. Change that story and the facts will follow. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you, through your thoughts, through your emotions, through your unseen convictions. And when you know this, when you feel this, you step out of powerlessness and into true creation. There is a law that governs the movement of reality, silent, sure, and unwavering. This law does not concern itself with the mechanics of how a thing will come to pass. It only concerns itself with what has been assumed as true. The moment a state is accepted inwardly, truly and without contradiction, the world begins to shift in perfect order to bring about the fulfillment of that state. But to the one who waits for the means to be revealed before believing, nothing happens. For it is not the means that produces the end, but the end that generates the means. You are not called to figure it out. You are not required to draw the blueprint. You are not the architect of the bridge. You are the dweller in the vision. The means are not your domain. Your one task is to assume the end, to live from the outcome you desire as if it were already fact, and to trust that all necessary conditions will unfold in divine sequence. The mind of man is ever restless, always seeking to predict and plan. It wants to know the details, to control the steps, to map the journey before it begins. But the deeper truth is this: the steps are revealed only when you have taken the leap inwardly. When you claim the end boldly in consciousness, the path appears. But it never appears before the claim. The rational mind rebels against this. It wants logic, evidence, and certainty. It wants to understand how its desire will come to pass before it dares to believe. And so it waits, and waits in vain. For as long as one waits for outer confirmation to believe, the state remains unfulfilled. The creative process begins with assumption. The moment you occupy the feeling of the wish fulfilled, you set unseen forces into motion. The world begins to respond. People, places, circumstances, and events arrange themselves, sometimes subtly, sometimes dramatically, to usher in the fulfillment of that state. It is not your conscious planning that does this. It is the power of the unseen working through the law of assumption. You may look around and see no evidence. You may be unable to conceive how such a change could occur. And yet, if you persist in the feeling of the end, it must come. For what you dwell upon inwardly becomes the outer experience. The bridge of incidents will unfold, whether you foresee it or not. Often, you will only recognize the perfection of the path in hindsight. Looking back, you will marvel at how precisely the pieces fell into place, each moment leading to the next with an intelligence far beyond your own. This is the beauty and the mystery of living from the end. When you focus on the outcome alone, with quiet confidence, the means come alive. People cross your path. Opportunities arise. Circumstances conspire, not by your command, but by your inner consent. You said yes to the end, and the rest was done unto you. To seek the how is to doubt the now. The one who asks how does not yet believe it is done. And so the how becomes a barrier, a wall of resistance against the flow of creation. But the one who knows the end is already secured walks in peace. That peace becomes the signal, the open door through which the miraculous enters. There is an infinite intelligence at work, one that knows the shortest route, the most graceful path, the most unexpected solution. It is not limited by your past, by circumstance, or by reason, but it requires your trust. It requires that you release your grip on the mechanics and hold firm to the vision. You must inhabit the reality of your fulfilled desire and let the rest be carried by the tide of divine order. The poser man desires to be free from debt. He need not figure out how the money will come or which person will help him. He need only assume the feeling of being financially free. He must dwell in the joy, the ease, the gratitude of already being liberated. And if he does so faithfully, life will mirror that feeling. Money will appear, doors will open, but not because he calculated every step. It will happen because he walked in the state of the solution. Or imagine a woman who longs for love. She need not chase it or manipulate it into place. She need only become the embodiment of being loved. When she feels the warmth, the affection, the delight of already having what she seeks, the world will answer. But if she watches the outer world for signs and questions every delay, she has stepped out of the end and into the wilderness of uncertainty. You must learn to close the gap in your mind between desire and fulfillment. Do not dwell in the question of how it will happen. Dwell in the certainty that it already has. The end is what matters. The end holds the power. The end contains within it the unfolding of every step required. All things move according to belief. The moment you believe in the end with sincerity and persistence, the structure of your world begins to bend. It may come through a sudden turn or a gradual shift, through a stranger's word or a quiet impulse, but it will come because the end has been accepted, and the end always calls forth its own path. You are never responsible for the outer orchestration. You are only responsible for the inner acceptance. So give up the strain of trying to figure it all out. Surrender the demand for visible evidence. Take your rest in the end, see it, feel it, live in it, and trust that every necessary means will come forth at the appointed hour, not by your doing, but by your being, not by effort, but by faith. The world you behold with your physical eyes is but the final expression of your persistent inner state. Nothing comes into form by chance, nor does it arrive by occasional bursts of faith. It is persistence, quiet, steady, unwavering persistence that brings the unseen into the seen. The assumption you dare to hold, and hold consistently, will become the fact you live. The outer world does not yield easily to a wavering mind. It does not respond to fleeting hope or half-hearted belief. It answers to conviction, and conviction is born not in the instant assumption, but in the assumption that is sustained, felt, believed, and revisited until it becomes more natural than doubt, more familiar than fear. That which you persist in internally becomes the law by which your life is governed. It is not the act of imagining once that brings change. It is the repetition of that act, the continued dwelling in the end, that transforms your state of being. You become what you habitually assume. The assumption becomes your identity, and your identity writes the script of your world. Many imagine a better life for a moment. They entertain the thought of health or wealth or love, but they return quickly to the evidence of the senses. They say, "It is not here," and in saying so, they affirm its absence. They have left the state too soon. They have not persisted, and without persistence, no seed grows. The gardener does not plant and dig, he plants and waits. He trusts that what is buried in silence will one day speak through blossom and fruit. So too must you learn to remain in your assumption, even when nothing around you confirms it, especially then, for that is the moment of testing, the moment where belief without sight becomes the foundation of reality. To persist is not to struggle. It is not force. It is surrender, a quiet determination to remain inwardly faithful to the unseen reality you have claimed as your own. You do not argue with appearances. You do not wrestle with delay. You return to the feeling of the wish fulfilled, again and again, until it becomes your dwelling place. Every time you revisit the assumption, with feeling, with faith, you are impressing it deeper upon your subconscious. The subconscious does not respond to words. It responds to repetition and feeling. What you feel to be true over time, it accepts without question. And once accepted, it must be expressed. Facts follow the path carved by assumption. They are never the beginning, they are the echo. If you would change the facts of your life, you must first change what you persist in believing. Your current experience is not the product of circumstance, but of persistent self-concept. You have believed yourself into your world, and you may now believe yourself into a new one. Imagine a man who sees himself as unlucky. He may try to think positively for a day, but deep within, he returns to the idea that misfortune follows him. That is the assumption that has been planted and watered. And life obeys that belief, not the passing wish, but if that man begins to assume, daily and with feeling, that life favors him, supports him, guides him, and if he persists in this assumption, despite old patterns, a new world must unfold. Persistence means you no longer take counsel from your senses. You listen instead to the inner conviction that what you have assumed is already yours. Though the outer world may deny it, you remain faithful within. You do not beg for change. You live from it. And that inner state, lived and revisited, becomes the bridge across which life must walk. You do not need to force belief. You need only repeat the act of assuming, gently, consistently, with feeling, and belief will grow. For what is familiar becomes accepted, what is repeated becomes natural, and what is natural becomes real. Doubt is nothing but a signal that the new state has not yet been fully claimed, and doubt only persists where assumption is inconsistent. If you feel yourself drifting into uncertainty, return again to the end. Imagine the scene that would imply your desire fulfilled. Dwell in it, feel it, let it quiet every question. The time it takes for an assumption to harden into fact is not fixed. It is determined by the intensity of feeling and the steadiness of focus. Some changes are swift, others gradual, but all are governed by the law of persistence. The moment you cease returning to the old state and remain faithfully in the new, the change must come. There is no virtue in effort without direction. But persistent inner focus, directed imagination, charged with feeling, is the secret power behind all transformation. It is the shaping hand behind the clay of life. It does not matter how unlikely the change may seem. The world must conform, for it has no choice but to reflect your inner state. All great works are born in stillness and made real by persistence. Whether a masterpiece, a new identity, or a healed body, it begins with an internal act and is brought to life by holding fast to that act, not once, but over time, not in hope, but in certainty, not from effort, but from assumption. So persist, not with strain, but with quiet authority. Revisit your chosen state daily. Rest in it, walk in it. Return to it whenever doubt knocks. And know that each return is a stroke upon the canvas, a word upon the script, a step toward the inevitable fact. For nothing can resist the power of an assumption held and honored until it becomes your natural dwelling place. You can never change that which you are unaware of. What you do not observe within, you continue to experience without. The beginning of all transformation is awareness. Until you know the state you are occupying, you are bound by it. But the moment you become conscious of where you dwell inwardly, you open the door to freedom. The world is not holding you. Your state is. And only awareness can release you. Your life is the faithful reflection of your internal state, not your wishes, not your intentions, but your dwelling place in consciousness. That dwelling place is not your outer environment, but your inner identification. Who you believe yourself to be, how you feel in the quiet hours, the emotions you return to when no one is watching, that is your state. And as long as you remain unaware of it, it continues to write the story of your world. Most people drift from state to state without knowing they are doing so. They wonder why the world shifts unpredictably, why some days are light and others heavy, but they do not look inward. They look outward and try to correct the reflection, but never the face. They treat effects and ignore causes. They remain in the same identity while trying to change the outcome. Awareness changes everything. It is the light that reveals a hidden pattern. The moment you pause and observe the thoughts you are entertaining, the emotions you are permitting, and the story you are repeating, that is the moment of power. It is not judgment that transforms, but recognition. You do not need to condemn the state you are in. You need only become aware of it. You cannot rise above a state you continue to identify with. If you believe yourself to be unloved, all your actions and perceptions will confirm that belief. You will interpret events through that lens. You will reject evidence to the contrary. But the instant you realize, this is a state I am in, not who I truly am, you have taken the first step out of it. You have reclaimed the authority to choose anew. A state is not permanent. It is a posture of the soul. It is a psychological atmosphere. And it is changed not by effort, but by movement, the movement of consciousness. But you cannot move from where you are if you do not first know where you stand. You must begin with awareness. Ask yourself in stillness, what am I truly feeling? Not what am I saying, but what am I believing? Beneath the surface words, what do I accept as true about myself and my world? These are the silent assumptions that shape your days. And when you bring them to light, you will see the connection between them and your outer experience. Perhaps you have assumed that life is hard, that money is scarce, that people are untrustworthy, or that love is out of reach. You may never have spoken these words aloud, but if they live in your inner conversations, if they color your imagination, then you are dwelling in those states. And life, with perfect precision, mirrors them back to you. The good news is this: once you are aware, you are no longer enslaved. The state loses its hold when you no longer consent to it. You may still feel its residue, but it no longer governs your direction. Awareness loosens the root, and from that moment on, you are free to assume another. Transformation does not begin with change. It begins with attention. Attention is the spiritual act of turning inward and noticing what is. Not what should be, not what you wish were true, but what you are actually embodying now. And when you see it clearly, you can choose deliberately. It is not enough to want a new life. You must become the one who lives it. And you become that one not by force, but by inward identification. But to assume a new state, you must first be aware of the old. Otherwise, you carry it with you into the new form, and nothing truly changes. Every emotion, every reaction, every internal dialogue is a signal pointing to the state you are occupying. Do not ignore these signals. Observe them. Learn from them. They are not enemies, they are messengers. They reveal the script you have been unconsciously following. And once seen, a new script may be written. You may discover that you have been carrying a concept of yourself that no longer serves you. You may find that you have been imagining worst-case scenarios, playing the role of the rejected, the overlooked, the forgotten, but you are not these things. You have simply been dwelling in their states. And now, having become aware, you are free to leave them behind. Awareness does not wait for permission. It does not need validation from the outer world. It simply notices and acts. It turns from the old and assumes the new. It does not beg the world to change. It changes the self, and the world follows. When you become aware of your inner state, you gain dominion. You stop being a reactor and become a creator. You cease chasing conditions and begin generating them. The shift is subtle but revolutionary. For now, you no longer ask, "Why is this happening to me?" Instead, you ask, "What am I assuming that gives this experience life?" The world is your echo, but you must hear your own voice before you recognize the echo. And that voice speaks most clearly in silence, in the quiet moments when you observe without judgment. From that silence, you awaken. From that awakening, you begin the true journey of transformation, not by changing the world, but by becoming aware of the state that creates it. Faith is not belief in what the senses show. It is not agreement with what can be proven. Faith is a higher faculty, one that belongs not to the world of facts, but to the realm of imagination. It is the unwavering loyalty to that which is not yet seen, but known inwardly to be true. It is the inner certainty that what is assumed will be made visible in due season, despite every contradiction of appearance. To the one anchored in faith, the delay of manifestation is not discouragement, it is irrelevant. Time holds no threat for the man who has already seen the end in the silence of his soul. He does not ask when or how. He knows that it is already done, for it was accepted in feeling. The outer world may still speak of lack or absence, but he walks in the fullness of that which has been claimed within. That is faith. Not hoping, not wishing, not waiting, but living as though it were already so. This faith does not cling to outer signs, nor does it rely on evidence to sustain itself. It is the evidence. It is the substance of things hoped for, the proof of things not seen. When you walk by faith, you are not moving blindly. You are moving with vision. A vision that sees beyond the senses, beyond logic, beyond past experiences. You are loyal to the unseen reality you have accepted in imagination. Most people live by sight. They react to what is before them and call it truth. They declare that reality is what they can touch, taste, measure, and calculate. But these are only the echoes of former assumptions. The visible world is delayed response, not immediate cause. To rely on it for direction is to place your trust in the effect rather than the cause. And the cause of all is consciousness, specifically what you are conscious of being. Faith demands that you shift your allegiance from the world of appearances to the world of vision. It asks you to remain loyal to the truth you have accepted, even when everything around you seems to contradict it. It asks you to feel rich when the bank says otherwise, to feel loved when loneliness whispers, to feel healed while the body still carries symptoms. This is not self-deception, it is spiritual discipline. It is the only true creative act. The world will tempt you to abandon your unseen reality. It will offer you facts and statistics, opinions and fears, all designed to pull your attention outward. But the moment you bow to these suggestions, you have broken your loyalty. You have shifted from creator to creature, from author to reader. Faith keeps you in your rightful place, the center of power, the origin of experience. Faith is not passive. It is not idle waiting. It is movement. Inner movement. It is assuming the mood of your fulfilled desire and abiding in it. It is revisiting that unseen world daily, walking its streets, hearing its sounds, feeling its atmosphere. It is letting that invisible reality become more real to you than the one your senses offer. To the faithful, imagination is not fantasy. It is preview. It is revelation. It is the place where the future is shaped. And once shaped in imagination and clothed in feeling, the future must become the present. But only if you remain loyal, only if you hold the inner picture steady in the face of delay, contradiction, and distraction. This is why faith is often tested. Not because the unseen reality is uncertain, but because your loyalty is. Life will reflect the contents of your heart, not the words of your mouth. You may say you believe, but your reactions will reveal what you truly accept. The moment difficulty arises, what do you turn to? The promise or the problem? The vision or the void? True faith holds to the vision, regardless of the conditions. It remembers that what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. It understands that reality is fluid, responsive, ever-changing, and that the only constant is consciousness. By maintaining your loyalty to the unseen, you reshape the seen. To live by faith is to move through the world untouched by circumstance. Not because you are blind to it, but because you are no longer ruled by it. You no longer ask for signs, you become the sign. You no longer wait for proof, you live in the proof you have already imagined. And because you live in it, the world is compelled to conform. This is not about pretending. It is not about ignoring reality. It is about claiming a higher truth and holding to it so persistently that it reshapes the lower. It is about becoming the one who already is, already has, already knows. And when you become that one in consciousness, you draw the parallel in experience. Faith is the bridge between the invisible and the visible. It is the passage from possibility to embodiment. But it can only carry you if you walk it. You must step into the state you desire and refuse to leave it no matter what. That is loyalty, that is dominion, that is the power by which all things are made. You need not beg, plead, or strive. The power is not in effort but in alignment. Align your feeling with the unseen truth. Carry yourself as one who possesses what is not yet seen, and let that feeling become your dwelling place. Let it become more familiar than the world you see around you, for that unseen reality, held in faith, must one day become fact. And you no longer question, no longer seek confirmation, no longer look around to see if it's working. That is the sign of true faith. It is settled, silent, and sure. It knows that all things spring from within, and that loyalty to the unseen is the first and final cause of all that appears. The world around you is not the source of your experience. It is the reflection of your inner state. Every condition, every relationship, every appearance is shaped by what you assume to be true of yourself and your reality. And you are always assuming something. The only question is whether you are doing it consciously, with intention, or unconsciously by habit. Now you know. You do not make things happen. You allow them. You do not wait for life to show you who you are. You declare who you are, and life confirms it. You do not chase the how. You dwell in the end, and the how finds you. You do not react to circumstances. You select your state and persist in it until the world has no choice but to mirror it back. You do not beg for change. You become the change through inward assumption, through loyalty to the unseen, through the sacred art of imagining with feeling. Each keynote, each truth revealed, is not meant to be admired but lived. These are not philosophies to be debated. They are laws to be embodied. And if you dare to take them seriously, if you dare to persist, to feel, to assume, to believe before seeing, you will come to know the greatest truth of all, that life does not happen to you, it happens through you. And once that truth becomes natural, your world will never be the same.